Well, Pastor, our attention now. Both of them talked about logic. Neely Fuller Jr. joins us. Neely Fuller Jr., welcome back to WOL Radio.
Thank you.
Here's one of the things, Dr. Fuller, that one of our listeners posed this question about, because you heard about the shooting of the church in South Carolina and the reaction of black folks. They were all in the forgiving mode. So much so that's probably why they let this dude out after killing all those people, or took him to Burger King and all that. He got some special treatment. But when it happens on the other, there's no forgiveness on when it comes to white folks. So I just want to get your thought about that. What's going on here? Is there something in our DNA that we're always of the forgiving nature, or is all this part of the system of white supremacy? And I'll tell you what, because we got to take a quick break here. We got to check the traffic one more time. So I'll get your response on the other side. Folks, you too can join the conversation with Neely Fuller Jr. Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. We'll take your calls next as the big show rolls on from 1450 WOL, where information is power. Thanks for staying with us, folks. 800-450-7876 to speak to Neely Fuller Jr. Dr. Fuller, before we left for the break, I gave you the scenario of what happened in Charleston with the shooting of the black church and the reaction of our folks, what happens when it happens to white folks and their reaction. What's going on here?
Well, people react different ways, and the different ways usually comes from what people believe in and or what they have been taught, and or what they've seen other people do or heard that other people are supposed to do. And that's the way people react to any situation. Animals do the same thing. Birds, bees, they watch other birds. They watch, bee watches other bees and kind of pattern themselves after whatever they see the other bees do. And people are no different. It depends on, there's an old saying, the way that a person is brought up, the things that they are taught, that's most likely the way that they will go. Depends on who does the teaching and for what reasons. So that's the way that people will do. That's what I write about, the United Independent Compensatory concept, meaning people do whatever they should or they think they should to make up for what's missing, and everything is missing from the time that a person is born. What is missing is a prescription for what to do about things. So the little baby in the crib just looks out from the crib and watches whatever he sees these other creatures, he or she sees these other creatures doing. And the baby kind of patterns after that. And then when the baby learns to listen and understand what someone is saying, learn something about words and the use of language and all that, then the baby will go in that direction. Depends on who has charge of the baby or any creature. Animals are the same way. Depends on who's in charge of the animal. A dog brought up in a house will act a certain way. According to what? What is that certain way? The way that whatever the trainer tells the dog to do. Rex, go and sit by the door. Rex, go here, go there. Stay. And so Rex does that because that's all Rex has ever heard. People are no different.
So basically, you're saying that we've been programmed this way to always be the forgiving one?
The person who is forgiving will tell you most likely that they didn't invent the term forgiveness. They heard somebody say that's what you should do under certain circumstance. And so if the person hears that and mostly hears that and doesn't hear another point of view, the person is likely to do what the person is used to hearing, particularly if that person has heard that prescription over and over and over again. A person can believe, or most likely will believe, whatever they hear over and over and over again. It's called training. It's called sometimes education. And in some cases, it's called indoctrination. Like a person who is in the military. I have been associated with Army exercises and all like that. And automatically, when the lieutenant walks into the because of the training. That's what they call it, training. Something that they tell you to do over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So when you see those bars on their shoulders, you snap to attention. You just automatically do it. Even when you're tired, even when you're weary, you would look up. And when you see those bars on that lieutenant's shoulder, you would just jump up. Why? Because you have been trained to do that. It's called training. And so people usually act the way that they have been trained to do. If they have been in other circumstances where they were trained to do something else, they'll do that something else. That's folks, all it is.
I want you to listen very keenly. Neely Fuller uses logic to explain what he's doing. So it's one of these classes that I mentioned that we often have. But you've got to. He uses logic. So what I'm saying is you got to listen very keenly to what he's saying, how he puts the words and how he explains things. You once said, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong in your statement, that racism, white supremacy, that if you don't understand it, everything else you think you understand will just totally confuse you. If that is accurate, what do you mean by it?
That means that the entire planet here in the year 2016, in my opinion, and based on what I consider to be evidence and logic, go by the evidence, the system of government that dominates this entire planet, if you want to put it in concise, straight to the point, no nonsense language, is called, in capital letters, the system of white supremacy / racism, meaning racism is white supremacy is racism. There's no other form of racism other than white supremacy. And what is white supremacy? White supremacy is a system of world government dominated, or the people who practice the system of white supremacy, means dominating people of color, and within that domination, mistreating the people in the process of the domination. That's what it is, literally, in all areas of activity, 24/7. What areas of activity? Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. If you're a white supremacist, if you're a white person, not talking about all white people, just those who have chosen to participate in the system, and that's a choice, those who have chosen to participate in that system, their job, their duty, all the time, is to dominate and mistreat people who have color in their skin. Every male, every female, everybody who has color in his or her skin, in all of those areas of activity, dominate and mistreat based on just looking at the person and deciding, making the decision on your own, or get some other white person to verify that that person is classified as non-white, meaning the person is not white, meaning the person has color in his or her skin. So that automatically makes that person eligible to be dominated and mistreated by anybody classified as non-white, and by any non-white person who a white person tells to help them to dominate and mistreat other non-white people. In other words, they are totally in charge. But the key words here in white supremacy is domination and mistreatment based on color. If you have color in your skin, you are automatically eligible to be dominated and mistreated by anyone classified as white anywhere on the planet, in any area of activity, any day or night that you happen to exist. That's what white supremacy means. And it's the most powerful, most sophisticated political system and religious system ever thought up in the minds of people. There is no religion, there is no political system more powerful right this minute than the system of white supremacy.
Now, having said that, this week, a couple of days ago, I think it was Google, when you Google a word, it says that, anyway, the interpretation was that the blacks cannot be racist and white folks are up in arms. Anyway, what do you mean blacks cannot be racist? For the bunch of white listeners that we have, can you explain why black folks cannot be racist, having said what you just said previously?
You can't have two supremes in the same space. That's not logical. It's not true either. You can't be a black supremacist in a white supremacist system. That's not logical. You can't have two supremes. You're either supreme or you're not. And so some people say white supremacy doesn't exist. Well, when they say that to me, conversation is over, because I've already assumed that it does, based on the evidence. I look around in every area of activity. Economics, look carefully. And I always ask people when I make statements like that, don't take my word for it. Check it for yourself. Look at economics. Look who the dark-skinned people depend on when it comes to economics. Economics meaning what? The use of time and energy. It's just not about money. It's about the use of time and energy. Who tells the dark-skinned people, the people of color on this planet, how to use their time, how to use their energy, and they better do it? The white supremacists. Then move to the second E of the 9 areas of activity. Education. You see dark-skinned people saying, I need education. My children don't have education. They don't know how to do the things that need to be done. They don't know how to go into the earth and dig out the all of the minerals and the steel, the iron ore and whatnot, and make steel out of it and all like that. I mean, please teach me how to do this. I'm standing on the land where the iron ore is, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what to do with it. Somebody teach me. And who is that somebody? Directly or indirectly, the white supremacists. Every time, without fail. And that's just one part of education. Any part of education. When we say we are looking for education, we have one question in mind. Which way did the white people go? Because that's the only way we're going to get educated. Now, there are some black people who say, oh, I have degrees from this college and from that college. Well, which college? Who made that college? Come on now, tell the truth. Where did you get all of those degrees hanging on the wall, and whose signature is on each one of them? And you say, oh, these are all black people that taught me. Well, who taught them? Duh. Come on now, let's grow up. That's just 2 areas of activity. And you have, what, 7 others. And so I won't just go through them, in detail, give illustrations, but you've got economics, education, entertainment. If you're going to really get into entertainment, I mean, in a big way, when you say you're going big time in entertainment, you're going to be talking to some white people if you're black and you're on this planet.
So hold that thought right there,
You're going
Dr.
to be
Fuller.
talking to some white people. Otherwise, you are not going to be big time in quote unquote entertainment.
Right. Hold that thought right there. We got to take a quick break. We're at the top of the hour. 800-450-7876 to speak to Neely Fuller Jr. He's got a great book out. He'll tell you about it. It's got a very long title. But we're taking calls from him next on 1450 WOL, where information is power. And thank you for staying with us, folks. Dr. Francis Chris Welsing's a mentor is with us. Another class on racism, white supremacy. His name is Neely Fuller Jr. Dr. Fuller, I'm going to let you finish up what you were saying. And also, when you finish, tell us the title of your book and how people can pick up the book. And then we got a bunch of folks all across the country want to speak to you as well.
Yes, sir. and I covered this 3 areas of activity, but very rapidly I'll do the others right quick. Labor, when black people what? When we say that we have our skills, our this, our that, we travel all over the world and whatnot, and right now, as we speak, there are millions and millions of people of color with their babies in their arms falling into oceans and all like that, trying to do what? Get where there are some people who are classified as white. They say that not in those words, but that's what it means. Which way did the white people go? My baby needs this. My baby needs medicine. I need food. I need shelter. I need a home. I need. Which way did the white people go? Which way did the white people go? I have to catch up with them, whichever way they went. If they went to the moon, I've got to go to the moon. I don't know what to do. That's what they're saying. They might be saying it in different languages, and most of them have different languages, which they say they are proud of, but their languages have not served them well. They say that they have a grand heritage. Their heritage hasn't served them well because this is what they are actually doing. We need to start telling the truth about our weaknesses, about our real condition, and stop celebrating on empty, because that's what we're running on. And then we move on from labor to law. Oh, please have mercy on me. Woe is me. Oh, change your laws so that they will do something to alleviate me of my pitiful condition. The white supremacists, they make the laws that mean anything. Politics, forget about it. You don't participate in anything except what they set up. And whatever they set up, they're going to make sure that white supremacy isn't damaged. I don't care which way you go. No serious damage is going to be done to the system of white supremacy, particularly if you're talking about replacing it with something called justice, and you're serious about it. So that's politics. And religion, oh my goodness. Religion, the strongest religion on this planet right this minute, and I'm either telling the truth or I'm not. I'm either telling the truth or I'm not. The strongest religion on this planet is, in capital letters, the religion of white supremacy, racism. Everybody bows down to that religion that has color in his or her skin if they're willing to tell the truth. They may claim, in words and little meetings and whatnot, all about what they believe in until the white supremacists walk in and say, Daddy's here now. You're daddy. You're a real daddy. You may have some father somewhere else, but I'm your daddy here, and don't you ever forget it, boys and girls. And we fall right in line behind it if we tell the truth. And we ought to tell the truth because everybody's looking at us. Do just that. We never do anything else other than that. So we need to get on that bandwagon of truth. Somebody once said it, and they told the truth when they said that. The truth is the way you have to go if you're going to get anything done. You start lying to yourself. And that is the essence of this one thing that black people have a real thing about, and that is respect. Well, the essence of respect is self-respect, because that's really the only kind. And what is self-respect, according to what I've written anyway? I've tried to analyze it and be accurate about it. Self-respect is refusing to lie to yourself. You may be forced to lie to somebody else, but when you lie to yourself, willfully and deliberately, you're through booking. You become a non-person. You're not on any kind of mission at all that any creator is due to give any regard to, because you're lying to yourself. And many, many, many black people have chosen to do that. Why? Because it feels good. That's why. And our feelings have always messed us up. We need to use a little logic along with our feelings. Feelings do serve a purpose, but feelings, what we call spirit, have to be attached to logic. Whatever created this universe created both emotions and logic. Not just one and not the other. They both go together. Emotions without logic, you're going to have failure in anything that you set out to do. If you just think that you can run on emotions, run gasoline with no engine, they both go together. You got to have it. And then you move from religion to sex. Don't even mention that. We can just run right past that. That's so messed up in the world of white supremacy and has really galloped completely wild when it comes with what they are doing to the non-white people on this planet in the area of sex. All this scattersexuality, they have completely taken in all of the people with the biggest brains into that fold in order to do what? Consolidate the agenda of the system of white supremacy. And all of the indications point to that. They are really working on that on a massive scale. And they are doing an excellent job in doing what? Confusing the non-white people of this planet everywhere. And they have done it in record time, and they have done it relatively easy. Sex is a powerful thing. And they have completely turned, particularly black people in the Northwestern Hemisphere, inside out, sexually. So that now we are totally scattersexuals. You put cyanide in it, and all you have to have is that doesn't make sense to you, because your creator gave you a brain. Use it. You're supposed to use it.
Hold that thought right there, Doc. We got to take our last look at the traffic and the weather in the DMV, and then we come back and we'll take some calls for you at 800-450-7876. Coming next on 1450 WOL, where information is power. And thanks for staying with us and our guest, Neely Fuller Jr., 800-450-7876. To speak to Mr. Fuller, let's go to line 6. Michael is calling us from Columbus. Michael, you're on with Neely Fuller.
Thanks. Good evening, Carl and guests. Thanks for taking my call. It's an honor to talk to Mr. Fuller. My thing is, Mr. Fuller, you're absolutely right. We worship the lie. We make white people a status, a pyramid that we have to live up to. But what do we do to repair ourselves, especially with those such as the Black Boule, those who support that system strongly and sell us out every day through politics, through religion, through government, as I said, to the schools, as you said, all lies. We live in a system of lies. If my people could just worship the truth or enjoy the truth as much as they enjoy white people's lies. What can we do as far as a people to galvanize ourselves from those who accept racism through money, which is their white man's God, his tool to control us, because he controls everything on the planet which was given to us, and he has taken it with his violence and his weapons, his ability to kill. How do we deal with ourselves when we try to galvanize, when we're separated, when we see this, like I said, in the schools, in the politics, in the church, all these different,
right. Let's give him a chance to respond, Michael. Thank you for your call.
The white supremacists have a code for all of the areas of activity. What is a code? It's a way of going about doing everything precisely. That's why they are the most successful operation that the world has ever seen. They're precise about everything, about economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. They have a code for each one of those categories. A code of what? How to think, how to speak, and how to act. What to say, what not to say in any given event that comes up, and how to say it. What to do in anything that comes up. That's what a code is, like an electrical code or a plumbing code. In other words, every time you do it, it works. That's what a functioning code is all about. That's why you call it a code. That's why they have a plumbing code or an electrical code or a speech code. It's something that works. You don't do what doesn't work. They are experts at doing what works. And that's why they are the most successful people that the world has ever seen. Successful in doing evil. I'm talking about the white supremacists now. I'm not talking about all white people. I'm just talking about the most powerful ones and the smartest ones. They are the ones who are running all the non-white people's business. Now, about the non-white people who are called sellouts. We are all sellouts because we're all born into the prison system of the system of white supremacy. The system of white supremacy is a prisoner of war system. And everybody who's on this planet now who has color in his or her skin is born in a prison. They have made a prison of the entire planet for people of color. And every white person is eligible to be a warden of the prison. And many of them have chosen to be that, wardens and guards in the prison system. And every non-white person is a prisoner of war. We are born in a prison. We have to understand that. All of the people who were originally captured are all dead. And so the ones, their offspring, were born inside of the prison. If we don't understand that, there is no point in even discussing anything any further. And that's either true or false. We are either in this prison, called the system of white supremacy, or we are not. Now, those who say that we are not, then I have nothing further to say. because the conversation runs out then, because I have already assumed that that's where we are. So what I've said is either true or false. So now, every black person in there who's comfortable with being in prison, I can't really criticize that person because I'm still a prisoner. One prisoner can't criticize another. One slave on the plantation cannot criticize the other slave on the plantation for being a slave when we are all slaves. So we can't use that as a crutch, because that's what that is. To look around and, like in the characters in the movie Gone with the Wind, and say, you ain't the one supposed to say quitting time. I'm the one supposed to say quitting time. But both of them are slaves. Neither one of them decide what quitting time is. Massa, up there in the big house, decides what quitting time is, and what beginning time is, and the time to sleep, and the time to eat watermelon, or the time to sing, the time to have church, the time to do anything. Plantation masters, and the entire planet is a plantation for non-white people right this minute in 2016. Everywhere on the planet, in every area of activity, every minute of every day. And here again, I want to reiterate, what I've just said is either true or false. So we need a counter code. You ask, what can we do? That's why I wrote a book as a sort of a guide. And that's why I'm on the air talking about what's in the book. I'm saying we have to have a counter code. You have to know what to say on a job situation, or what to say when you're around white people and what not to say, what to say when you're around black people and what not to say. Everything is about doing and saying after you do what? Some thinking, thought, then speech, then action. The white supremacists have a precise way of doing all of that. About time a young white male is around 15 years old, he pretty well knows the white code. Nobody has to sit down and talk to him. He picks it up by osmosis, they call it. In other words, by observation, by being around other white people who are practicing the white code. And by the time he's 15 years old, he'll make a few mistakes, but he'll straighten them out, usually himself. He'll figure it out. He'll say, oh, no, I'm a white person. I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm not supposed to be saying this. I'm not supposed to be acting like this. This is not supposed to be my type of entertainment unless I'm around black people and I'm putting on a show for them and getting them involved in something that is going to make me stronger. I mean, I'm a white supremacist. White supremacists know how to practice white supremacy. Black people, the non-white people of this entire planet, have never even thought about they needed a code. We just go about things, just, bumping into things, going here, going there, and hope that everything falls from somewhere, right in our lap, without us doing any thinking along scientific lines. Science is a matter of cause and effect. The creator of the universe wants us to study cause and effect because everybody on this planet has an assignment. Black people have been taught that we don't really have an assignment except just to look forward to miracles, maybe sometimes in the future, just happening. Meanwhile, we just walk around bumping into things like people with no brains, like zombies, which is what we're sometimes called. And the white supremacists love it because they have a code from the time they get up in the morning to the time they go to bed at night. It's called the system of white supremacy, the most successful operation that the world has ever seen. But it's evil, and it should be replaced with the system of justice. And the logical people to replace it would be the victims of it. But we're not on our assignment. You know what we spend our time doing? Truth be told, showing off to each other. If we can just do a little bit of showing off to each other, we're satisfied. And for prisoners of war who need to be replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice, that is an insult to ourselves and to our Creator. We're supposed to be trying to practice justice, and you can't do it in a system of white supremacy. It's impossible to have justice and white supremacy in the same planet at the same time. Can't be done. It's either or.
All right, 800-450-7876. I know we're coming up on a break, but let's talk to Rick in D.C. on line 1. Rick, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr.
Good afternoon, you guys. I just want to say that the more I listen to the doctor, the more I kind of understand his positioning, where he's coming up with his thoughts. But since he put it out there, whether or not one has to understand it or not understand it, agree with it or not agree with it, since I'm only left with those two different options, I vehemently do not agree with 80% of what he's saying. And I think that most of what he's saying is from his own perception that cannot be proven, because I've heard him on this show before. He goes about telling us what we don't have and how white supremacy is this big gorilla and we can't defeat it. And I'm like, what? I'm like,
hang on a second, Rick. We got to take a quick break here. I'll let you finish your question or your comment so that he can respond. 800-450-7876 gets you in. Calls next on 1450 WOL, where information is power. And thanks for staying with us, Neely Fuller Jr., 800-450-7876. And Rick, I think we got the gist of your question or your comment, so I'm just going to let Dr. Fuller respond. But I thank you for your call. Neely?
Yes, if I'm correct in what I heard, the gentleman said there was 80% of what I said wasn't true or something?
Correct.
What did he say?
He said 80%. He says it's all a matter of you just thought it up, and that's why it can't be disputed, because that's what you said. How do you, I guess, how do you debate what you said? That's what you said. And it can't be proven.
Oh, it can't be proven. Oh, okay. Well, that comes under what I've written, VGQ. He gave his opinion about what I said. So now if the things that I have said on this program tonight, if they are invalid, maybe all of it is invalid, then that means that something else is valid. Now, what I would like to hear from anyone, either the gentleman who was talking, because this is not personal, it's business, say what is valid. What is the truth? Maybe there is no such thing as white supremacy. One of the first things that I did when I was first formulating my concept, I instituted the practice of throwing rocks at my own concept, trying to find something in it that was in error. And so I wound up writing a book which I think is not in error. So now anyone who points out an error, that's not an embarrassment to me. That helps me, because I said a while ago, I don't want to make any errors in my analysis. The things that I say are either true or false. There's no wiggle room there. I try to say it in such a manner that there's no such thing as in between. It's either cut and dried, true or false, and even the prescriptions, the things that I say that should be done, are things that either should be done or shouldn't be done. I try not to leave anything in between, because if you got something in between, that makes confusion. And the white supremacists feed off of any kind of confusion. That's the one thing I'm definitely trying to eliminate. So it's either or. So if anyone goes, in the listening audience, goes through any sentence that I said, they said, well, now, Fuller, I heard what you said, Now, 80% of what you said is untrue, or 20%, or all of it, or some of it, or half of it. I just want to know, where were the untruths more than anything? Forget about the truths that I may have said. I want to know where the untruths were, or even the suggestions that I made, the few that I've made so far, about what to do about things, and I haven't made but a few, if any. If you find any flaws in that, I want to know what they are more than anybody, because I want to correct every flaw in anything that I ever say, because we are all flawed. I admit to that. We are all flawed. Everybody on the planet, in my opinion. And in my opinion, that opinion could be incorrect. Maybe there are some people who have no flaws, but I know I'm not one of them. So I always want people to point out my flaws, because the good stuff will take care of itself. That's logical. It's not personal. It's business. If I can correct all of my flaws, I will be flawless. So I want people to help me to correct anything that I say on this program or any other program. I don't care how bombastic I might be in saying what I have to say, and I've been what most people would call bombastic on this program this evening. But just because my manner of talking sounds like it's coming down a little rough, that doesn't mean anything. What does mean something is whether I'm telling the truth or whether I'm making something up. I could be. I could be a paid agent of the white supremacists, just trying to stir something up that's frankly not true, which will eventually help the white supremacists. People don't know who I am. So I say, just look at it from a standpoint of what? What the Creator gave each one of us, most of us, the ability to use logic, the ability to find truth and tell the difference between what is true and what is false, and then use truth in a manner that will produce the most constructive results. But you can't use it if you don't know what it is.
All right. 800-450-7876. Randy's calling us on line 3 from Indiana. Randy, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr.
Hello there. One of my favorite YouTube participants, Dr. Neely Fuller. Not trying to ingratiate myself. I don't care if I agree or disagree. I really watch a lot of you on YouTube. What I do appreciate when you called the system of white supremacy evil. Thank you for that. I wouldn't disagree with that. And I also appreciate when you separated white folks at the bottom from those who actually are creating the system. Now, I do understand that I got a question real quick. And I do understand that the white folks at the bottom have it made and contribute naturally to the evil system. But I just think that you speak of the non-whites as victims, and I'm thinking in the first world. I think I want to know: do you think the victim part of the mentality of the non-whites in the first world, or because I feel that they are also accomplices, and you pointed that out just over the last 10, 15 minutes. You didn't use the word accomplice, but you pointed that out, that they are participating in their own demise. So I'm just wondering, do you think among us common folk, white, not whites, but among the common folk, non-whites, in the first world, do you think in the end that the victim will enlighten themselves and come to what needs to be done? Or do you think, my word, the accomplice will win out? I think, Dr. Neely Fuller, and I'll get off the air here and listen to your answer, I think the accomplice part of the spirit of the imprisoned non-whites in the first world will win out in the end. And I'll listen to your answer here off the air. Thank you very much.
Well, if I understand understand the question here again. I think the epicenter of the question is, do I think that the victims of racism will be able to replace the system of racism with the system that should have been in the first place, presumably that system being justice? Sure, I think that, or I wouldn't be on the air trying to push that bill of goods. Justice, presumably, is better than racism. That's the theory. Hasn't been proven, but I think that it will hold up. The white supremacists believe that racism is better than justice. That's why they practice non-justice. Racism is non-justice. It's an evil system. It's designed to do harm to people deliberately. Deliberately, not accidentally. It deliberately does harm to people. For what purpose? For the purpose that everybody enjoys: fun, glory, and material gain. Now, it is my belief that the system of justice can provide the same thing without harming anyone, because I gave a compensatory definition for the word justice. I didn't like the ones I saw in the dictionaries over the years, so in the 1980s, about early 1980, I made up a definition for the word justice, because people were telling me there was no legal definition for the word justice. I didn't really know that. I didn't know whether or not to believe it. But in 1994, I saw a TV program where it was discussed, and a person who was a lawyer talking to a host, they both said that there is really no legal definition for the word justice. So I made up one. I had one already made up in the 1980s prior to that. So I went with it, and I still go with it. And until I hear someone say one better, I'm going to keep the one I got, the one I made up. And it goes like this, 2 parts. Justice. Part 1, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. Part 2, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Underline the word constructive. I think that will hold up and will stand the test of time. And if anyone comes along with one better, I'll adopt that one, because I always want to adopt the thing that works best. I don't want to adopt anything second best. I want to adopt the thing that's really best, because I think that everybody on the planet should always do the thing that's going to be best in anything that is of constructive value. That's what the counter-racist code is supposed to be. That's why I have no objection to anyone criticizing anything that I'm saying, as long, but I prefer, they don't have to do it, under what I call VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualification. They're qualified to say anything they want to say. Since I say anything that I want to say, I'm allowed to do that. So, if someone has a suggestion, they say, Fuller, I don't agree with anything that you said, and I got something that's better than everything that you said. And I'm going to tell you why I'm saying it and how.
Hold that thought right there, Dr. Fuller. I got 20 seconds. We've got to take a quick break, and I'll let you finish on the other side and also take some more calls for you right here on 1450 WOL, where information is power. And thanks for staying with us, and our guest, Neely Fuller Jr. Coming up in the next few days, you're going to hear from Brother Darren Muhammad, a researcher. He's going to talk about Birth of a Nation, the movie that opens this weekend, and also the very latest of the research he's done on the latest police shootings. But let's go back to Neely Fuller Jr. Dr. Fuller, I'm going to let you finish up your response before we take another call for you.
Well, like I said, the whole point of what I have written and what I'm saying, first of all, is to find out whatever the truth is, regardless of whose feelings get hurt, including hurt my feelings. Hurt my feelings with the truth. I have no problems with that, because the truth will do what the truth is supposed to do. It leads people to think correctly rather than following what? Following something that's false. That is a terrible thing for anybody to be dishing up, including myself. So the first thing is to find truth. Truth is what? It's that which is. That which is what? That which is whatever it is. Find it the way that it really is, not the way that you want it to be, not the way that I want it to be, not the way anybody wants it to be. Find out, first of all, what is the situation as it really is, and then ask the next logical question. Should that situation be what it is? Because it either should be or shouldn't be. According to what? According to logic. Everything in counter-racist science, everything in any kind of science, everything in getting anything done that should be done has to be based on logic. What is logic? Cause and effect. You do a certain thing, and you get the certain effect. Fire will burn. Water is wet. These are laws, regardless how anybody feels about it. If you jump into deep water and you don't know how to swim, and you don't swim, you sink to the bottom of the water, and the water eventually will overcome your ability to breathe, and you can't breathe underwater if you are a person. Some creatures can breathe underwater, but not people. They're not structured that way. So the water will do what to that person? Drown the person. Now, anyone who wants to deny that does so at considerable risk. Follow the logic. Don't follow people unless the people are following logic. Logic came with the universe. The creator of the entire universe created a thing called logic. Feelings are fine, but feelings must lead to logic. They work together. Like an electrical motor needs electricity. The motor is fine on its own as a motor, but it will not operate without that spirit that goes into it. But they both have to go together, body and mind. And then the spirit goes into the body and mind and causes everything to work. Work to do what? The things that should be done. That's why we have fingers and toes and eyes and ears. We could have been born without heads if we were just going to go on spirit alone. But we were given a head with a brain. And that brain tells us to pick up things. I can pick up something right now. I don't know how that worked. But something told me. That's something. That's something that created me. Pick up this piece of paper. So I want to pick up the piece of paper, but I couldn't pick up the piece of paper if I didn't have a hand to do it with. That's the way that works. The spirit goes with the hand. Someone once said, the best place to find a helping hand is at the end of your arm. I think that's how the word handsome came into being. Some hands. Handsome. Some hands. Knows how to do things. Has a brain that moves the hands to do things, to accomplish things. Otherwise, we could just be spirits floating around here in space doing absolutely nothing. But whatever created us, all of us, put us in a body form, which means the body is supposed to be doing something. And the something we're supposed to be doing logically is receiving messages about what to do and how to go about doing it so that you have the most constructive result. That's the logic. Otherwise, why should we exist at all if that's not the logic?
All right. 800-450-7876, line 4. Rick's calling us from Ontario, Canada. Rick, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr.
Yes, sir. Dr. Fuller, I really appreciate the presentation that you have and have been given. Two things that you said really stood out to me today. And I thank you because I learned something. I learned so much listening to you. You remind me of a relative of mine. But when you say how black folks celebrate on empty, it is such a profound thought. And it points to the second point of the definition that you gave of self-respect, where a person simply, if you self-respect, you don't lie to yourself. And those 2 points, I think, were well worth any time that it took for us to hear that come from not you, but to have been stated. I see black folks. I mean, it's like our history is sold to us now, SOLD, as though it is. You got to know what happened 5,000 years ago in order to know what's going to take place next week. And that puts us in a dilemma where everybody knows what happened 5,000 years ago, and nobody knows what's going to happen next week. It's just a crapshoot. We don't prepare. We don't plan. We just get up in the morning and head out to our job or whatever it is we think that we're here to do. And no recollection, I should say no forethought about what's going to happen next week, next year, for my children's future. Those things are never, ever discussed on radio or any place else for that matter. And the second point, which again ties to the first one you made, and I'll be brief because I know there's other callers waiting to get on. But that really, to me, is the essence of our problem, the fact that we lie to ourselves. Everything is so, people get up, they put makeup on, they got silver eyelids, they got red lips, they got rouge on their black skin, they got blonde hair, they got eyelashes that aren't theirs, they draw on their eyebrows as though nature didn't know what it was doing when it designed us. Nobody has yet to come up with a human body. Yet everyone wants to try to embellish the one that we can't even produce. And I think that is really the essence of our problem, is we lie to ourselves, as you said. We see the problem, and we turn a blind eye to it, knowing that there is an action that we have to take in order to turn this thing around. And it may not be pretty, but it still has to happen. So believe me, you get calls with people saying they disagree with 80% and don't cite a single thing of their disagreement. That's just pure emotion. But I want you to know, just like I used to say to Dr. Weldon, your points come through as cogent, elegant, and most appreciated by people who need to hear them. So I thank you, brother, and may you continue to be strong.
All right. Thanks, Rick. And there's a question here, so we're going to keep moving. 800-450-7876. Tokioma on line 5. You have a question for Neely Fuller Jr.?
Yes. Thank you again for taking my call, Carl, and to your guests. My point of view is that there's no such thing as white supremacy. It's only wickedness by people of evil-minded people that spread that idea of wickedness of how to exploit people. Check this out. We all live on this world, in this big planet, interdependently. One resources might be available in one part of the world, and another resources might be available in the other part of the world. We all need each other. After all the so-called Greek philosophers like Plato, Socrates, all of them got their education from Africa. You know, there's no spiritual concept or economic or educational concept came out of Europe or America. They all came out of Africa. And the so-called Greek philosophers, they acknowledge the fact that they learned from Africans. The ancient Egyptians, they're still Africans. So the thing, what the guy is talking about, I think, in my opinion, is just coming here to sell a book for people, for suckers who's going to believe in him and believe in their idea. You're a victim of whatever you believe in. In my opinion, there's no such thing as white supremacy. We all humans need to work together.
Let's give him a chance to respond because you're repeating yourself. Thank you, Tokiomo. Doc, it says there's no such thing as white supremacy. Your response.
Oh, well, I have already covered that in this program. Now, once a person says, according to what I've written, and people have said that, as far back as I can remember, there's no such thing as white supremacy. And I have said repeatedly, well, there's no such thing as white supremacy. there's no point in talking about anything called a race problem. I mean, it's no such thing as a race problem. Because if there is a race problem, what would the race problem be? It would be something called white supremacy. That's mostly what I hear it associated with. And, all the time as being the dominant thing that people talk about. So now if we're talking about something that doesn't exist, maybe people like Neely Fuller, and this could be true, is absolutely off the hook insane because he's talking about something, a problem that doesn't even exist. So, for those who say that, part of the code always tells me to say what I'm supposed to say. If there's no race problem, then there's no point in talking about something that isn't a problem. Talking about a problem that is not a problem, that does not exist, talking about solving a problem that does not exist is not logical, and some people might say totally insane. So that puts me in that category, because I'm definitely talking about something that I think does exist. So if there's some wagon that comes around and picks up people who's talking about racism really is a problem and really does exist, then it looks like I might have considerable company, and I'm comfortable with that. In the lockup of us insane people who believe that it does exist. So that leaves the people who say that it doesn't exist in this beautiful world without racism.
Doc, we run out of time. Can you tell us how to get your book?
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is the method for ordering the textbook for victims of white supremacy and the additional word guide if you prefer to do so.
All right. Can you give us the title one more time?
That's the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. It's just 2 books at that site. So one is just an extension of the other book. Really, it should have been 1 book. And it says so on the cover of the second book, which is a counter-racist word guide. How to use words, how not to use words, because words are tools. We use tools right here on this program to convey ideas.
The idea we got to get out of here. So thank you, Neely Fuller. Folks, we're running late, so stay strong, stay positive, stay in the light. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock.